I was thinking about changing my title to I'm the Red Cross of Stream Restoration here.
Oh.
But along that lines, thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to come in and review what's been going on in the county in terms of what we and our partners have been doing in restoring the streams in the county itself. I work with Doc Fritchey chapter of Trout Unlimited, and we partnered with the Quittapahilla watershed for a number of years. And along that line, I work in both Dauphin and Lebanon County. The biggest portion of our work has been in Lebanon County, so you get the benefit of all that work. And so again, thanks for everyone for letting me be here today. And let's just get going here. I referenced this article that appeared in the Chesapeake Bay Foundation magazine as an article that pointed out the needs for the stream restoration and what's a way to approach it. And as is characterized by many of the other counties in our footprint or in our area, the biggest impact is from ag-related issues. And I know you're probably familiar with the MS4. That's a pretty hot button lately. We work with the municipalities along that line to address and help them put together projects along that. And in this article, which by the way there are copies I can make available to you if you want, it points out the need to work cooperatively with farmers to and put together best management practices, or as we call them, BMPs. Now, the history and the field work that we started intensively back in 2000 and 2001 by a gentleman who works for us as a consultant. His name is Rocky Powell. You may have heard of Rocky's name.
I've met Rocky, yeah.
Yeah, and he's been a consultant for us on any number of projects, and then culminating in 2006 with a multi-volume report that perhaps you've seen on the Quittapahilla watershed website. Now, this resulted in a document called a Watershed Implementation Plan. Are you familiar with that term? Mm-hmm. Okay. Or a WIP. And the WIP is based on 2006 report and more recently field assessments of the watershed itself. And the WIP was presented to the DEP and subsequently to the EPA for approval, which is where we are right now. We're waiting for that to come back which provides us a roadmap for future projects, if you will. And the key organizations that partner with the Quittapahilla watershed are, of course, Doc Fritchey, chapter of Trout Unlimited, Lebanon Valley Conservancy, and in addition to that, the biology department at Lebanon Valley College. And so, a little difficult to see, but this particular map is a map of the watershed itself.
See the light.
Sure. Yeah, is that still okay? Okay.
It's a little better.
Again, a little bit difficult to see, but you can see this is an outline of 9 projects that were submitted to the, as I call it, the Mariner East 2 Sunoco Fine Pool. And in the following 4 slides, the status of these particular projects will be highlighted. I have a slide dedicated to a couple of them as we go through it. Okay, let me slide that over there so you can see that a little bit better. Now, the first one, starting in the western part of the watershed, is the Killinger Creek project. That project was submitted to the DEP for approval, and it did not get funded. They were seeking for $130,000 plus, and that project did not get funded. The second one is Beck Creek project, and this one is near and dear to my heart because it's probably one of the little better fishing streams in the watershed itself. We sought funding for about 2,000 linear feet of Beck Creek off of Route 322. It's right there at the dip when you come up past Spangler Road. And the projected costs of doing all that we wanted to do was $875,000 roughly. And this project was awarded $150,774, as you can see. Third one on the list in that realm is the Snitz Creek project. We call it Snitz 2, and it's proposed seeking funding to restore 2,300 linear feet. And that one, if you're familiar with the borough of Cornwall, there's a road called Culvert Road. And back on Culvert Road from the rails to trails.
You said culvert.
Culvert.
Yeah,
Yep.
culvert.
Mm-hmm.
Culvert.
And
A culvert.
the stream that we're seeking to repair there runs along some ag fields and back into the Cornwall Borough. And the projected costs on that one is a little fuzzy yet, but we're $862. We were awarded $159,000. So, you know, that gives us some money to work with to get things rolling, and then we go out and seek other for the construction end of things. Okay. All right, come on. Here we go. Bachman Run. This is another project that was proposed. This one was submitted by South Anvil Township, and it was fully funded, and it will be between Louser Road and Reichert's Road, where that will be performed. And in effect, it's putting native plants back in that particular area, called a riparian buffer, and manage stormwater discharge from two of those big developments that are back in that area. And that to me is very important, because if that's not managed, it just overflows and comes back out. So that one was awarded for $92,000, full award.
Mr. Collins, excuse me.
Yes.
So would they ever make that part of the development project, that they have to provide funds for what you're asking, you know, grant money?
Working on the retention containments. They have to have DEP approval before they put their developments in.
Right.
And in effect, this is addressing any shortfalls in that, given different flooding events and that type of thing. So, yeah.
But they do have stormwater basins that they're responsible for constructing and maintaining as well.
Yes, they do.
Right, I was talking about the creek funding that you're looking for. Shouldn't that come from the developer as part of the project?
I would like it to see that come from the developer.
That's the source of the problem. But
yeah, to make sure that we don't have that overflow capacity or overcapacity taking place there. And again, this SNITS 1 is, we put these all together because they're all part of that watershed implementation plan, and we all name them. We name them by various names as they line up. SNITS 1 was proposed by Cornwall Borough, and it was back in the area of, I'm not sure if I know where Goosetown is, but I know where the project is. It's kind of south of Cornwall. And this one was they asked for $166,000. Again, the fine pool awarded them $166,000. And moving along the lines, and we're working on another unnamed tributary off of Clover Drive, and it was proposed by the Lebanon Consortium. This project was awarded the entire amount also at $66,000 in South Lebanon Township, and received full funding on that. Let me go back. Okay. And On this other project, the upper Quittapahilla main stem, or Hickory Boulevard, was proposed again by the consortium. And they've been working aggressively to pull this all together for the consortium. And they've gotten, one thing that we learned is that if you're a municipality, you get a little bit better attention from the DEPs than some of the projects that are put in by independent organizations. So you can see this one was projected cost of $81,006, and it was fully funded back in that area. And all right, this is the last slide where the upper Quittapahilla main stem project, and this was put together by the consortium, and it was down near the technology center to enhance that wetlands down in the area and retain stormwater and allow that infiltration to replenish groundwater in the area. This one was not funded.
No, not funded.
Not funded, no. And lastly, I guess there's one more slide then coming too. But the South Hills Park rain garden, again put in by the consortium. And this one was not funded, but they were looking to do some rain garden work out there, which is basically water retention and planting reeds and so forth to soak up some of the runoff, if you will. Again, it wasn't funded. So let me move on to projects that we have completed. Many of you are probably familiar with the Quittapahilla project that we took down about, it's roughly about a half a mile of creek restoration in that area. First one was completed on February 19th of 2015, and it took out some of the old mill dam, the riffles that run down underneath the pedestrian bridge and about a few yards above the little small footbridge that runs down along the trail there. Phase 2 was completed in 2016, and that took it all the way down to Route 934. So if anyone is a fisherman, that section is very good. Holds fish. That's my passion, if you will. And third completed project is the Snitz, what we call the Hershey Dean Foods property, right across from the water treatment plant on Hershey Road, or on Dairy Road. And this project was an application from my chapter that we received an award from Fish and Boat for the project of $115,000 with a projected cost of $170,000. So the balance of that came from donations that we rounded up, volunteer hours, and so on and so forth. I think at last count we had 970 volunteer hours that went into that particular project. And it's a prime example of what can be done with the rest of these projects that are doing it. So I'd invite you to, if you want, take a tour of it with me sometime as we go. Okay. Projects in the planning phase. Beck Creek. And our efforts here to restore 2,000 linear feet of Beck Creek from Route 322, which meanders across the Spangler and West Cornwall Township. This one is currently on hold a little bit because we're negotiating with Sunoco Pipeline. Their pipeline, the new pipeline, is buried deep enough that we can do a restoration project there. But the old pipelines were only buried 2 feet below the surface, below the creek. So we need to have them do the work over the pipeline where we can move on downstream. And the idea with this particular project is, if you look at that section of stream, somebody shot an arrow years ago and straightened that stream out right down along the property line on, I think it's the Weaver Farm. And it took out a lot of the natural meanders that a good stream should have into it to prevent flooding, also to prevent erosion and so forth. So we're building that back into the plan, that the meander would be part of the mix.
Would it all be on one property, or would it straddle two properties?
It would encompass two properties, the Weaver Farm and the Brummel Farm, Brummel location. So as it goes down, just a small portion of it is on Dr. Brummel's property. Snitz Creek 2, this one is to restore 2,300 linear feet. Grants were received for this particular one, as I noted in the one of the earlier slides. And this one goes from the culvert outflow to the Lebanon Valley Rails Trails to the culvert upstream on the Cornwall Road. This one is on hold. Bottom line is we have a little thing to work out with one of the property owners. And that's in the works with the Cornwall Township, by the way. And I gave some of this presentation to them as we're working with that particular project. Snitz Creek Project 3. This is a proposed restoration of about 1,000 linear feet from culvert outfall downstream to the culvert road and to the bridge. This is back where there's an electrician's firm back there. I can't remember their names right offhand. It's on their property, and they are all gung-ho to get that taken care of. Projects in the grant application phase. Just recently, we submitted a grant for Snitz Creek 4, which is one in Corinthville out in Cornwall Borough. And this is proposed to restore about 3,000 feet running behind the neighborhood and along the uphill Cornwall Heights, I believe is the name of the location up there, and down through, ending up with the Upper Snitz Creek, where it runs into the main branch. Okay. Now, the Bachman-Horst project, I just submitted that in October for a grant submission. Roughly $800,000 we were asking Fish and Boat for, and it was declined. So in effect, what we'll be doing is when new grant sources come about, we will be applying to have this particular, because it's already been planned out and designated. This one I take as basically a personal challenge, because I've adopted it as one of my pet projects, if you will. And I'd love to see this one get restored. As you can see, that's maybe a familiar person standing there with his cane. That's when we were out looking at the banks that were eroding. And I mentioned Killinger Creek. That's being rejuvenated. We found a new funding source for part of that particular project, and we have 3 property owners, 2 to 3 property owners at minimum, that are interested in having that stream also restored. And I put this picture up there just to give you an idea. You can see, first thing is there are no trees planted along the creek, and secondly, how the embankments start folding in on themselves and filling in the creek. That's part of the pollution problem, or part of the pollution problem, and the type of things that we do for the restoration. And last on my list of projects in the exploratory phase is Doc Fritchey and Donegal chapter have united to do a major assessment on the Hammer Creek watershed, which is Kleinfelderville south to 322 in that area. It's a pretty big watershed, a pretty big task, but we're entering phase 2, where we're looking at the assessment of those particular streams and what the needs might be. When we finish that, there'll be a phase 3, and then we will develop a mini WIP, if you will, giving us prioritization of the projects that need to be done in that creek. And the example that I took this on one of the properties down there, you can see that's about an 8-foot high eroded bank. And in the next couple of years, if it doesn't get taken care of, what will happen is that farmer's going to lose his fence as it comes out, and it'll go on over into his cultivated fields. Okay. And so, wrapping things up here a little bit. Oops, I just turned it off, sorry. Come on. Anyway, let me just read my wrap-up to you.
Okay. Just some light.
Since 2000, much work has been accomplished or is in the works in the county itself. This is just one outline of Lebanon County's projects that all of us are deeply involved in, and still much needs to be done. We all need to pull our weight in cleaning up the valuable clean water resources. And that's the bottom line of the whole thing, is getting our waters clean. As an added bonus, the fish will come back if it's clean water, and it gives us good, clean drinking water too. The Schroeder is used as a drinking water source, and this all flows into the Schroeder. Our varied volunteer organizations need strong partners to join with, and that's what we're presenting is, again, asking you folks to become partners in the area, which I'm sure you are, definitely, as things progress. And then the other thing I would ask is that if you have the opportunity to advocate for the funds that are the lifeblood of this type of work, Growing Greener funds and other Keystone environmental funds, don't hesitate to advocate for that, because it's a very important. Last year, I think there was $61 million pulled out of the pool, a lot of money. And that was, quote unquote, slush fund, according to the governor and legislator, but it was earmarked. Anyway, I get off the political wing. Sir?
Do you work with our conservation district at all?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, very intimately. Mike Snyder and I know each other pretty
Okay.
well.
Good.
And
Yep.
I'll be working with Mike on they have a new initiative out connected to the Schroeder watershed and involving Lebanon County. And we're working at understanding what that's all about. But to answer your question, yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Russ, have any of the projects that you put in had to be redone for any reason?
No, that's a good question, and the methodology that is used goes back to a gentleman who restores western streams called Dave Roskin, his name. And
I know Dave.
Rocky Powell and any number of other consultants in the area are familiar with that. Plus, we have a list of contractors that know how to do the work correctly. And since 2016, 2006, we've had some major flooding issues down through the area, and that section of the Quittapahilla Creek, and of course our Snitz project, which is our pet project there, have all held up extremely well. No need. The only thing we need to do is go back in and continue to take out invasive plants and plant more trees in that regard. But the structure and the soundness of that restoration stands up to pretty much a 100-year flood.
I thought there was something in the Quittapahilla Park that had to be redone.
That was a bank erosion up above where the project began, the first phase project began. As the trail goes up, there was a bank that was becoming extremely eroded, and that was funded by NRCS. And they just completed that, I'm going to say, what date was that? That was back in November or December that it was completed. Forget the bill on that one, but it was like 300,000 maybe.
So you were not involved in that one?
No, that one was, because of the funding source through NRCS, we didn't get involved in that particular one.
Okay.
So, other questions, gentlemen, ladies?
This is really a kind of a far out thing, but if a farmer, since ag is most of your issues ag related, you said, is there any money for, say a farmer wanted to be part of the solution and wanting to move his fence further inland, you know, to create a bigger space so to prevent some of the problem. Is there money for those kind of projects if a farmer wanted to be involved? So you're making a more of a permanent, you know, investment in a solution than having to, you know, clean up every, you know, so many decades or whatever.
Right. There are funds, and most of it is NRCS funds that are available for that particular kind of thing. The project that we're working on out in Cornwall Borough, it was our SNITS 2 project, which is currently on hold. NRCS has a methodology to see if a plot of land along the creek qualifies for a wetland, upon which, if it does, then they get compensation on a per acre basis.
It's CREP, Conservation
Correct,
Reserve
exactly.
Enhancement
Yes,
Program.
Thank
Yeah.
you for that.
You're
reference.
welcome.
Yeah, yeah. Correct. Keep all of these terminologies.
I know, it's okay, we gotta help each other, right?
Indeed. So that's to answer your question. And in some cases, it can be built into the agreement. You know, they can donate the land. In cases I've seen where if they allow a wetland and meander, they can give a conservation easement on that. Then that can be a donation to the project itself.
And you can
which
write
is
that off on
deductible.
your taxes.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. So I've done a lot of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
very good.
Did you ever work with Joe Waybright?
Yes.
Fish warden. That's my uncle, he passed away, but,
Oh,
yeah, he was a
okay.
fish warden a long time.
Well,
Negotiated a lot of
his
contracts with
nephew,
farmers.
Dale,
Dale's my
Mhm.
nephew. Mhm.
yes.
Yeah.
He was a very aggressive, you said, was that Junior Waybright?
Junior just died. He was,
He just passed away.
yeah, he was
right?
like 98 or something like that.
Mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
Oh, good. Again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
And, you know, we'll perhaps maybe be putting this up on our website that we talked to you all. And if that's okay with you,
Sure.
good, good. Thanks again.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.